Situated in the west of England, the ancient city of Gloucester was one of the most important strategic towns in the Middle Ages. Separated from the Welsh borders by the River Severn, it provided successive English kings with a well-defended outpost from which to launch raids on Wales. Its role as a river port was enhanced during the 19th century by the construction of a canal and the enlargement of its docks. But the origins of Gloucester are much older than that. Long before the Norman conquest or even the first Saxon kings, the Romans built a major settlement here. The foundations of their defensive walls can still be seen beneath the city's museum.
Gloucester's at least 2,000 years old. Our first sort of recorded evidence is from the Roman period about 2,000 years ago. The Romans came here about AD 44. About a year after the invasion of Britain in AD 43, and they established a fort. By AD 70 there were 5,000 Roman soldiers here, and there was quite a flourishing community of Romans.
Gloucester's museum contains a wealth of Roman pottery and other artefacts that tell of the wealth and sophistication of Colonia Nervia Glavensium, as it was then called. Its inhabitants had the same status as the citizens of Rome. In the Middle Ages, Gloucester became a centre of religious power and scholarship, with a cathedral and several major monasteries, including Blackfriars, whose buildings still survive in the heart of the town. Here the monks would copy out Christian texts by hand and illustrate them with beautiful paintings on parchment. Gloucester was also a key royal castle.
The king came here every year. The Christmas court was held here. The Doomsday Book was commissioned here. Parliament was held here on 3 occasions. So Gloucester was doing very well up until the 17th century, and then its fortunes started to decline, and you get industry coming in, and then you get the development of the docks and the rich industrial heritage which Gloucester also has.
Like most of Britain's early industrial centres, Gloucester has now lost almost all of the manual skills on which it based its wealth up to modern times. Many of the huge dockside buildings that had housed mountains of metal goods and grain for export were pulled down, while the rest fell into disrepair. But now these sad relics of the past are due for a major facelift in a massive regeneration project.
We've got a 10-year regeneration programme to restore Gloucester as a great English city. Over the years it's gone through massive decline. We've got in the order of about 100 hectares of derelict land now. It's equivalent to about 240 football pitches. But also we've got tremendous heritage assets. We've got over 500 listed buildings, some superb complexes. Blackfriars, which is where we are at the moment, is one of them. We've obviously got Gloucester Docks and Gloucester Cathedral. And the main thrust of the programme over the next 10 years is to use this heritage, the strong heritage within Gloucester, to regenerate the city as a whole.
One relic of the past that's refused to die is Neilson's Boatyard, a traditional dry dock that specialises in repairing historic vessels using traditional methods. It's one of only a handful left in Britain and is owned by Danish boatwright Tommy Neilson. Its specialist skills and facilities have attracted David Kampner, who's trying to restore the SS Robin, said to be the last coastal tramp steamer still afloat in the UK.
This is increasingly rare and extremely important. If we manage to preserve our maritime heritage, we have to have facilities like this to be able to not just accommodate the ship, but to have the skills to do the kind of repair work necessary. And increasingly that specialism is dying out. This is the heart and soul of the river and the docks. And being able to repair ships gives everybody a thrill. Being able to see what living history looks like is totally important for our experience of a walk around an area like this.
Once a working port and off limits to the general public, the old Gloucester docks have now been opened up for tourists and leisure businesses, like Vining's Restaurant, a strikingly modern addition to the waterside's more traditional architecture. Clad in what looks like old rusted boilerplates, the metal and glass structure manages to blend in with the surrounding warehouses that are over 100 years old.
It is a fabulous site. It's a beautiful location, and certainly within the central part of the UK there isn't such a lovely waterway as there is here. and I felt it's worth investing the time, the money and the energy, and so far it's working out very well for me.
Another local entrepreneur adding his own ideas to the regeneration plans is Gloucester-born Dick Bishop, who's putting £45 million of his own money into a major retail and leisure complex to be built on this waterfront site owned by his family's demolition and development company.
What we're trying to do is build something for Gloucester. My father was in demolition all his life, and we feel it's time to put something back into Gloucester now, as we've knocked most of it down. Basically what we're trying to do is housing, shopping, bars, restaurants, open up the canal front and just make a nice environment for Gloucester people.
The trouble with Gloucester is that you can't put a spade in the ground without turning up potentially important archaeological finds. This can sometimes lead to tensions between the developers and the historians.
Heritage is our main selling point, and it's as though we're sitting on an oil well here because we've got all this amazing undiscovered heritage which we know about, but which needs to be interpreted properly and needs to be exposed and revealed properly in a responsible manner, and balancing that with the needs of the present, which is the crucial thing. Allowing the city to grow and to have more life, that also is important. And I can't say how it's going to be achieved, but I know that everybody has been thinking about that question particularly, and particularly in planning terms and in terms of archaeology.
Gloucester's regeneration plan gets around some of this potential conflict by emphasising the reuse of existing buildings within the city wherever possible.
Gloucester's heritage is very, very special in terms of the UK, and a lot of the buildings are vacant at the moment. We need to bring those back into use, and we need to introduce new investment in the city, which will provide a secure future for Gloucester for many, many years to come.
2 years after it began, signs of Gloucester's renaissance are everywhere. On the outskirts, cranes mark the site of a new shopping centre, while in the midst of the city's historic heart, ancient buildings once used by religious orders have been earmarked for the centrepiece of what will probably be Gloucester's most important new business, a return to the days when it was a centre of learning. The old Blackfriars scriptorium, where monks toiled over their handwritten books, is set to become the focus of the new University of Gloucester.
The current concept is to move our arts and media faculty from Cheltenham to Gloucester, develop our cultural portfolio in partnership with other organisations, so we'll be very much of a cultural quarter here in Gloucester. So those programmes include journalism, fine art, fashion, product design, and a range of other associated programmes. I mean, Gloucester has a fairly low level of participation in higher education, and clearly skills and intellectual sort of capacities are fairly central to economic development. So, you know, it's part of the reason why we're so keen to be central here in the city.
It will bring millions of pounds into Gloucester and a vital infusion of fresh ideas as students from around the world help write this new chapter in the city's history.
What it does, it brings in more students to add to the vibrancy of the place. It helps to create a new identity for Gloucester. We've got a cathedral city here, but what we'll have, you know, hopefully in a few years' time, is a university city as well. And it enables us to bring active uses into complexes like this, which have been dormant for many, many years. And the great advantage from the university's point of view, they're basically buying into the old fabric of the city, and they're able to compete to pull in new students into Gloucester on the basis that we're using old buildings as well as new facilities. So it strengthens their product range, and hopefully will make sure they're a very successful university in the years to come as well.
The regeneration plan is being financed by a mix of UK and European Union funding, along with private capital investment. Over the next 10 years, £200 million will be spent creating at least 2,000 new jobs, securing the future of Gloucester as a great British city.